Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Manage and Secure Apple Devices in Higher Education. So my name is Craig Greendale, and I'm the Events Manager here at XMA. So please join the conversation by using the chat feature, and we'll answer as many as we can. Just to let you know, the webinar is being recorded and will be made available after today's session. So I'll now hand over to Kenny to begin today's event.
Thanks for that, Craig. Today, as part of XMA's Smart Workspace proposition, we want to talk a bit about managing and securing Apple devices in your institutions. And we'll touch on some of the integrations between Jamf and some of the existing parts of your Microsoft infrastructure too. The agenda will include a quick intro into XMA's ESG strategy and how that connects to Smart Workspace and Mac Employee Choice before we hand over to Scott from Jamf to take us into the main topic. And after that, we can have a short Q&A session to finish off. At XMA, we're focused on delivering the right outcomes for customers, and we'll aim to work collaboratively to align our collective environmental, social and governance strategies. We do this in appropriate areas where we can share meaningful and measurable impacts for customers, for XMA and for our partners. That might be reducing environmental impact through lifecycle management, improving employee experience across all areas of your and our business, or building and maintaining trust through robust governance of these principles, which are at the core of everything that we do. As part of our work with customers to improve employee experience, it's important to find ways to secure and engage the workforce. And to do this, we want to help you to secure and protect your business, first of all, to maximise employees' potential with great experiences for them, and then to analyse those experiences with meaningful data to help deliver continuous improvements. Creating great experience for employees requires providing them with the best tools for their work. PricewaterhouseCoopers survey suggests that 78% of millennials believe that having access to the technology they like at work makes them more effective in their job. A Gensler workplace study suggests that providing employees with choice can have a notable impact on their individual levels of innovation, job performance and job satisfaction. And a Jamf employee choice survey showed that when given the choice, 3 out of 4 employees would choose Apple to use at work. Institution-owned Windows devices are managed at an enterprise level and are compliant with security policies, but Macs are oftentimes given a bit less consideration as an enterprise solution. One of the phrases that was coined by one of our customers was liberty without governance, which seems to be quite a common theme. With that in mind, we'll help you to enable your workforce to choose Mac devices with an effective Mac employee choice programme that delivers reduced total cost of ownership, is manageable and secure, can be personalised for the users and is appropriately supported. So today we want to talk about some of the building blocks of the compatibility between Jamf and existing Microsoft environments that can help to enable some of that choice. And that leads us back to the main topic for this webinar with Scott Mackay from Jamf, talking about securing and managing Apple devices. So Scott, I'll hand over to you and I'll let you share your presentation with the group.
Cheers, thanks Kenny. All being well, this did work earlier, so I hope that it's going to work just as well now. Hopefully you can now all see my webinar there, big Microsoft and Jamf slide. I'm looking at Kenny's, he's the only one I can see, so I'm going to presume that that's a yes with the smile on his face there. So yeah, morning all. Thanks for your time this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are in the world, wherever you're joining us from. As Kenny said, we're going to cover how you can manage and secure your Apple devices with Jamf, but more importantly, how we can integrate that with Microsoft World. Let's not kid ourselves. We know that many of you are Microsoft customers and have been for a number of years, right? Microsoft have been around a lot longer than we have, and that's okay. We've got a lot of integrations to help solve those problems. So yeah, just a bit about myself. Scott Mackay, as Kenny's already introduced me, I'm a senior sales engineer here for the UK and Ireland. So I work not only in high ed, but in our enterprise customers as well. So I do this pretty much day in, day out. So a few points that we want to cover today. I mean, first of all, why Microsoft and Jamf, right? Why couldn't we just do this with another company or Microsoft themselves potentially? What integrations do we have between Microsoft and Jamf? And really a key focus for everyone over the last number of years, and specifically highlighted due to the pandemic, security is key. Devices aren't just fixed to a desk anymore. How can we help with that? What are we doing in that space? And then, as Ken's already said, we'll finish off with a Q&A. So we've got plenty of time for that. So if you do have any questions throughout, feel free to drop them in the chat. I am trying to monitor it, but if not, we'll cover them at the end as well. So first off, why Microsoft and Jamf? Well, I mean, you kind of don't need to really be, a mad scientist to understand that everyone basically has an Apple device of some sort, right? It could consumer simple, but we really need to make that, enterprise friendly as well. We need to manage these devices in some way, and that's what we do great at Jamf. We can really take the Apple consumer message and bring that into an education or an enterprise world so that you can still secure and manage it. But again, we also know we can only do some of that, and that's where we can lean on our partners such as Microsoft, who have been doing a lot of this for years, with identity and security and things like conditional access policies. They're really good at doing that. We won't take that away from them. We want to lean into that. We know you've been doing that for a number of years. We're going to integrate with that. So that's basically why we do it. And the three things that we're going to focus on today, we're going to focus on management, identity, and security. So with management, we know Jamf's going to manage it, but how do we take a lot of that management data and that capability and feed it into another tool like Power BI? With our identity, how can we make it that you can sign into your Mac with your Microsoft Azure or Entra, as they now call it, ID? And security, we know Sentinel's really big and popular, but we've got some of our own security tools that work just as good, if not better, and how can we feed that data into Microsoft Sentinel as well? Just to let you know as well, a little bit of history. This isn't a new thing. We've been working with Microsoft for a number of years now. They initially presented alongside us and Apple at our JNUC conference, our Jamf Nation User Conference back in 2017. And they also did it as well last year in 2023, and we had Apple, Microsoft, Google, Okta. We had a lot of the big companies there presenting. So again, we're one of the only companies in the world that can bring all these big tech players together to understand how to better manage Apple in all your different environments. So hopefully that'll rest assured that this isn't just a new thing and that we've got a lot of history here. So what are some of these integrations that we have? Well, if we start with that core foundation of management that I spoke about at the start there, we obviously manage our devices through something called Jamf Pro. I'm going to take a stab that most of you know what Jamf Pro is. And for anyone that doesn't, if you're coming from a Microsoft world, think of it like an SCCM or an Intune. It's there to manage your devices, deploy applications, policies, enforce passcode policies, things like that, all on your devices. But we also have a number of integrations as well with Microsoft that we can bring into Jamf Pro. One of them being device compliance. So if it is that you have things like conditional access policies and such, we can actually integrate them with Jamf through the Partner Compliance Program and actually push them onto your devices. The great part about this is it's not just iOS, it can be iPadOS and macOS as well. So we can cover the whole estate. But most importantly for me as the IT admin, I don't need to do anything. It's really simple and it's fast for the user to just sort themselves. They can run it when they want and how they want. And once it's registered, that's it. It's done and dusted. They don't need to continually go through that process again. We've got it simple, safe, and secure. And that data is now feeding into Entra ID. And I'm sure the next question that a lot of you will be asking is, well, how do you do that? So just to geek out a little bit here, we'll kind of walk through the process. So obviously our devices are managed by Jamf Pro. And we actually have, as I stated, the Conditional Access Partner Program, which we can use to then register those devices. It does go via Intune and pass that data now into Entra ID. So our devices are being managed by Jamf, and that gives us the benefit to actually evaluate the compliance data within Jamf and send the compliance status to Microsoft. So we don't just have to now rely on what Microsoft says compliant. We can actually take what data we have in Jamf, passcode policy, potentially if it's a Mac, it could be file vault status, anything like that. We can take all that data and mash it into a policy, which we then say, if you meet these requirements, you're compliant, and we will inform Microsoft of that. We will then send that to Entra ID, and that will then determine whether they are allowed to access or be blocked from resources. So again, none of this is any different to what you potentially do on your Windows devices. It's all that's just managed via Jamf, so we can gather much more data to then state that compliance policy. And what does that look like? Well, here it is. Again, you can see that you get a little bit of information about the device, device name, if it is currently enabled or if it needs re-registered, who owns that device, and whether it's compliant or not. So we get a little bit of data, and really the key status that we're looking for here is that compliant field. So, is it compliant, yes or no, or is it not been registered yet? So that's all fine and well. So again, like I say, we can now see compliance status, but we know that we collect a lot more information in Jamf, like file vault status. What happens if we want to get that out to present to a CISO or a CTO? They're always asking, are our machines compliant? Do they have passcode policies enforced? When was the last time they checked in? Maybe your procurement team need to know about hardware refreshes that are coming up, anything like that. And that's where we can also integrate with Jamf Pro and Power BI. So we can take data out of Jamf and pass it to a reporting tool that you may already be using. And it's funny because I always get this question of, our CISO needs access to Jamf. How can we lock them down so they can't do anything, but they can see what they want? And I always talk to them about the power of Jamf Pro without giving them access to Jamf Pro. And this is where we can take a lot of that data that we can harness in Jamf Pro and pass it to Power BI so they can see it, but they can also see it alongside the other data that matters to them as well. So as an example, we can take our apps and accounts that are deployed to a machine, but we can also collect customized data as well. So I have on my Mac here, I have a report that will tell me whether the battery needs serviced. So again, it's really helpful to know that, I can start to become proactive from a support perspective, but I can also feed that into my Jamf Pro and then Power BI dashboard as well. So as an overall, I can see how many batteries are healthy and how many are failing. I can start to measure, how much support will be needed around that, or whether we need to look at hardware refresh. One example that I also have here to show you, and again, it's probably a bit small on your screen, but it will show you some of the data rich that Power BI can display and how much we can pull out of Jamf Pro, is I've got my patching and upgrade policies here. So I can see exactly where our whole estate is when it comes to upgrading to the next version of macOS. And again, because Microsoft, which they do so well, aggregate that data, we can display that in a number of ways there. So again, we're getting the power of Jamf Pro and we're using the best of Microsoft together there, which is really helpful. So again, this is just a simple dashboard. You can build and customize this to your heart's content. But again, it just really shows when we bring the two worlds together, how much you can actually achieve and what is possible with Jamf and Microsoft. So the next part in that kind of trifecta that I showed you was identity. And the piece that really comes in here is we have a tool called Jamf Connect. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to do account creation and password synchronization on Mac with Entra ID. So again, I basically explained it there, but let me take a demo and show you what that actually looks like. We can take our device out the box, and this has been sped up a little bit. We can enroll it into Jamf Pro. So we're going from Apple Business or Apple School Manager straight into Jamf Pro here. Again, it'll start to apply our policies, and then what you will see is not the Apple login window, but you will get Jamf Connect, which is a customized login window. And what we've got here is a web view out to Microsoft. That has then forced that user to authenticate to Entra ID. So I would see that as a sign-in attempt if I went to Microsoft Entra and looked at the sign-in logs. But what it's also doing in the background is creating a local username and password synced with our Entra ID account. Our user is now in the machine and we're onboarding them. So we're letting them know we're installing some more stuff in the background. We're putting Jamf Protect in there. We're also installing some stuff for SSO to make it simpler for them. Now their Mac's set up, we've got self-service, which is like customized app store, where they can run policies, get configuration profiles, even install other applications when they're ready. And we can see that this user here wants to download Microsoft Teams. They can get that. While they're doing that, they can then choose to continue to use their Mac as they wish. And what they're going to do is they're going to go to Microsoft Office 365. And what this will also do in the background is then enable single sign-on for them. So now when they use any Microsoft service or any other service that you allow, we can enable SSO. I'm sure for anyone that's done an SCCM or a kind of autopilot on the Windows side will notice that this looks very familiar. And this is actually something we've been doing in the Apple world for a number of years. Jamf Connect is now that final piece that's been missing, where we can actually integrate to the Microsoft side, so we no longer have just random local accounts on the machine, and we've got accounts that are actually valuable accounts and that mean something to us because they're actually coming from our Entra ID. So just to highlight again some of that use case there. The nice thing with this is it can be used with automated device enrollment, which is basically we unbox the device and the user can set it up themselves. Or it can also be used if your Macs are already deployed and out there, we can actually migrate that local account that they've already set up and bring it and sync that password with the Entra ID as well. Most importantly, we can do MFA enforcement as well. And we actually have an option within Jamf Connect to do offline MFA as well. So we can sync it with Microsoft Authenticator and do offline MFA. As you've seen in my kind of video back there a couple of minutes ago, you can also brand the login window. So you can have custom wallpaper and some custom messaging in that as well. You can have an acceptable use policy. So if any of you need it for maybe like a MacLab style situation, it's nice to have that where they all look the same. And whenever a user signs in, you can throw up the acceptable use policy to make sure that they are agreeing to the T's and C's of that shared device. And finally, one thing that you didn't see there, which is nice, right, is that automatically enabled file vault as well. So again, we've signed in, we've done MFA, but we've also done file vault. For anyone that doesn't know what file vault is, it's basically just full disk encryption. So it will fully encrypt the disk. But again, the really nice part there was that you didn't see it, right? That's what we want. We just want automatic disk encryption and file vault enablement without the user having to do anything. So we've signed in with our Entra ID. We've fully encrypted the disk using file vault, but also in the background, I've used Jamf Pro to escrow that key. And I can then also pass some of this data into Power BI. So you can start to see how we can connect all this together to make a really simple approach, which will also help you with Cyber Essentials as well. So I'm sure a lot of you have either been through the process, going through the process, or will be getting recertified over the next few years. A lot of these tools here can also help with Cyber Essentials. So not only we bring in the best of Apple, the best of Microsoft, the best of Jamf, we can help you achieve some of these processing policies and requirements as well. So finally on that piece, we had the security bit. And this is something that we've been going into over the last few years. I'm sure if you remember my timeline, it kind of stopped at 2021. That was not intentional. We've been doing a lot with Microsoft in there as well. And really where we've been focusing during and through the pandemic is with our security partnership. And this has been highlighted by Microsoft themselves, where we are now qualified and assured by Microsoft Intelligent Security Association, which is an absolute tongue twister for me, so I'm just going to call it MISA. But again, there's only around 300 partners in this program globally, so it's very exclusive. You think about all the tools, all the companies, all the integrators that Microsoft work with. To be part of that 300 is quite an achievement. So this is a stamp of authority from Microsoft. And as I said, they presented at our conference last year. And again, don't just take it from me. This is what Microsoft are saying about our security tools. So yes, they make Sentinel, yes, they make Defender, but this is what they're saying about our security tools. And the nice thing about this, again, I'm not going to read this, I'm sure you can all see it on your screen, is that this isn't just them saying we're good. This is all about collaboration. So this is how do we take what Microsoft are doing really well and what we're doing really well and bring it together. And some of that I'll show you today, and some of that we're working on for future as well, right? So this isn't just like a one and done thing. This is very much a continued partnership together. And this is exclusively for security. So this is nothing of what I've just showed you. This is purely about how are we securing Apple devices for consumers, for enterprises, for education, for everyone. So again, some of this is some of the threat lab stuff that we do where we find 0 days, which affects consumers and enterprise customers and education customers. And some of it is purely around our education and enterprise focus as well. So really nice that we've got this, again, not just from us, like I say, but from Microsoft themselves. We do this though with Microsoft, but we also have our own security tooling as well from Jamf Protect, which integrates into all that. And what is Jamf Protect? It is basically, next gen endpoint protection, but just for Mac. So again, this solely runs on Mac. It's designed for Mac, built for Mac. It's not a port of anything else like some others may do. We truly went out to the market and went, if we were going to do this from the ground up, what would it look like? So I'm sure you might look at a lot of this today and you might go, that looks almost like Apple built it. And that was our whole reason for doing it, right? We wanted something that worked on Mac and worked really well with Mac alongside Apple security tools as well. And again, as you can see, we've been awarded a lot of things, specifically from Capterra themselves, but since then we've got a lot more as well. And we could do a lot of the kind of classic AV stuff, shall we call it? I know that's maybe not the used words these days, the antivirus tooling and solution, but we do a lot of that classic stuff and we do a lot more as well. So that's what I'm going to show you over the next couple of minutes now. So, as an example, how does it work? Well, here somebody has an executable file on their desktop. They're going to try and open it. And when they do, we can see that the Mac warns them and then Jamf Protect kicks in. We see that that is malicious. We notify the end user and we can also quarantine that file as well. So again, straight away, we can intercept that as the user tries to open it and quarantine it, which is great, right? So it's been managed by the user. But the important thing as well is how do we collect that data? Because that's something we really need to know now. We need that because we're going to need to do a root cause analysis. We need to do a report on what's happened there. And in Jamf Protect in the admin console, this is where the good stuff really happens, right? We collect all that data, that information. We can see an alert has happened. There's been a threat prevention. We've blocked something, and we'll tell you exactly why that's happened, what the reason was, how it happened, when it happened, who it happened by, which is all great, right? So you get all that information and you can see everything that's happened and what happened at that time. We can also just monitor things like behavioral detection as well. So, synthetic clicks, screenshots, screen sharing, SSH. We can detect all that and find whether it's malicious or whether it just needs to be reported in information. We have 150 out of the box techniques that we call analytics that you can monitor on machines throughout your environment, your Apple estate, and look for information that you may be currently missing. And again, like I say, there's nothing wrong with somebody taking a screenshot, but there might be something potentially malicious with somebody taking 10 screenshots in a second. That's something we can determine against. And we've also just got in there, our Jamf Threat Labs detection as well, which will detect known and unknown malware on our machines. And underpinning all that is our MITRE ATT&CK framework. So again, that is an industry standard where you will be able to see how threats and vulnerabilities are built, and they all have specific codes and specific wording and phrasing and how they're used, and they'll get a kind of CVE attached to them as well. So we use that framework. So if you're using any other security tooling in your estate on your Windows machine, they potentially use that same framework as well. The best part for me, though, is that I'm not a security expert. I have some good knowledge, but I'm nowhere, a security expert. I don't sit here all day, much to my colleagues' belief, and sit and run malware on my Mac and test it and run it and rerun it and look for flaws. And that's where Jamf Protect really comes in, because again, we've got these 150 plus detections, these are analytics, but we also give you that human readable terminology about what that means, what we're looking for. And again, you can even see there the predicate that we're using. So you can take that and build your own on top of that as well if you want to do further monitoring. So we will give you all that, and you can deploy this without having to really understand a lot of it. And again, you can learn how all these works, etc. So we've now gathered all this data, which is great, but I know what you're going to say. I don't have time to sit and spend, all my life clicking through alerts in Jamf Protect to manage these devices and understand and report to security. And again, that is really where our integrations come in. We have an integration with Sentinel, again, that you can just quickly spin up, pass across to your security team, and they will be able to quickly build dashboards, workbooks, and reports that will show them all this data and more that we're collecting and pass it straight into Sentinel. So not only can we get those alerts and that data that I've shown you previously, We can also actually do unified logging and telemetry streaming as well. So again, if it was that you wanted to constantly pull information, that's absolutely possible when you integrate with Microsoft Sentinel as well. So I'm sure if you go back to any of your CISOs or your head of security today and you say, hey, by the way, with Jamf Protect, we can actually do unified logs and telemetry streaming live from a device, they'll go, yeah, great, that's exactly what we need, because there's not a lot of tools that can do that out there as well. So again, you can see how rich these dashboards are. Again, you don't need to be an expert in building these. We've got resources for doing that and helping you. But yeah, it's just to see how rich that data can be. So what are our customers saying about this? Well, I'm not going to give you any quotes. I'm just going to play you a quick video and you can see for yourself.
Integration with Power BI, fantastic tool for us to be able to give a management overview, a graphical display of what we're doing, the ability for us to be able to share management reporting in real time with seniors at the university, allows us to display and convey the message of what we're achieving in a set of views that they understand. Everybody likes a pie chart. The actual process of onboarding Jamf, which is to say registering a cloud instance, setting up our DNS to behave appropriately, and then connecting it to our Entra ID directory in the cloud, was completely straightforward. In fact, I would go as far to say as we have recently went through making SCCM co-managed with Intune in the cloud, and integrating Jamf with Azure AD was simpler, more straightforward, and took us less time. We get our identity management from Entra ID for single identity management for the whole university, and that lets us do leverage lots of conditional access policies, for example, in Azure as well. The integration of Entra and Jamf is really slightly done, and we had no issues at all. So we have used integration layers. So we've got Jamf Protect as part of our offering. We are integrated back to our Sentinel system, so we are passing our data back, our security data, our cyber data back to be monitored. So there's active monitoring on the devices, and that's at an enterprise level, as we would expect. And so we build the trust that we know who has the device, what they're using the device for, without being inside the device. As part of our initial build with Jamf, we've delivered something which has Jamf Connect into Entra ID, has Jamf Protect are running alongside Microsoft A5, and is live reporting all of that into our Sentinel. So a newly constituted cyber team are able to now pick up and address in real time interactions with our Mac fleet in a way that we've never had before. To say it's an upgrade in our capability is an understatement, a significant understatement.
With Power BI integration, we can produce reports that then can be seen by senior management. Again, we have a single pane of glass for the Microsoft estate and the Apple estate, and we can see all the information that we need, but also to produce reports for senior management, consultants, or whoever needs to see those reports. We can produce reports that are appropriate. That shows them at a glance how we're progressing with our compliance and how we're working towards getting the entire estate to be managed by Jamf Pro. That compliance can then be used to dovetail into reporting that we provide to research grants and contracts where they require us to have a certain level of compliance.
Perfect. And yeah, if you missed that or you want to share that out with any of your colleagues or anybody that you work alongside, again, I've put the URL in the top there. If you just search for Jamf and University of Glasgow or scan the QR code, you'll be able to get to that resource that I've just shared there. And yeah, there's so many good quotes in there. I mean, I think my favourite was probably Colin's, "Everybody loves a pie chart." I didn't realise I did love a pie chart until he said that. So yeah, that was really nice to hear. But yeah, it just goes to show, right, that, you know, we're doing all this stuff, right? But again, sometimes that it's not appreciated because we're not presenting it in a simple format for people to understand and to see. They just see that we've got Macs out here, but we don't know what they're doing. We know we deploy these apps to them, you know, but we don't know how many, etc., right? Putting that in a pie chart just makes it really simple and hits home that actually we're doing a lot of good work with our Apple estate as well. So I'm aware that we're coming to the top of the hour, so I'll just quickly wrap up again. As you've seen today, we are here to help you connect and manage your Apple devices and protect them, but along with Microsoft, right? It's not us and them, it's absolutely a partnership. So take that away, right? You can have the best Apple experience while still using your Microsoft stack. So again, whether it's you want to report data into Power BI from an asset management point of view, we can do that. Enforce MFA on Macs at the login window, we can do that. Or whether it's stream telemetry into your Sentinel dashboard, which you're probably already doing, we can absolutely do that as well. So again, hopefully that's given you some ideas and some thought processes to take away today. Again, thank you for listening. Again, we can absolutely go into this further as well. But yeah, I think now we can open up for some questions if we have any.
That's great. Thank you, Kenny and Scott. That was a really good overview. And yeah, we'll spend the remainder of the session answering any questions that you may have. And so, as I said before, feel free to use the chat or the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. So I'd now like to open the floor to any questions. Okay, so we have one already. So Scott, do you have any documentation around Jamf and Power BI integration? So I can create a basic dashboard, but want to get a little more advanced with it.
Yeah, good question. I don't have it to hand, but I'll certainly find it while we're remaining speaking here. But yeah, there's definitely some out there, some integrations and some workbooks out there that you could potentially pull from and use with Power BI to help with that. But we do have some resources which I can pull out and share with you.
Great, thanks, Scott. So another question we have is, so what is the cost of Microsoft integrations that you've spoken about today?
Yeah, really good question. So if you already have any of the Jamf products that we spoke about and the required Microsoft licensing to integrate those, there is no cost. So it's not like you need to pay an add-on to get data out of protected Sentinel. That is all free to integrate. Connect and Entra is free, and to pass data into Power BI is also free. So all those connectors that I've spoke about in integrations, they're absolutely all free, providing that you have the right Jamf and Microsoft licenses.
Okay, so Ben asks, how difficult is it to query the data from Jamf Protect into Microsoft Sentinel?
Yes, again, really not a good question. These are really testing me today. Well, the good news is we're actually now in the Microsoft Sentinel marketplace. So within that, you should be able to connect into us and have a straight workbook straight into there already set up. We do also have a GitHub repository, which I will also find and share with you around Jamf Protect and how you can integrate with that as well. So I will also drop that into there. I use that quite a fair bit myself. I've just found it because I've got that bookmarked. So I can drop that into the chat for people. Hopefully they can see that. But there's a nice GitHub page that will show you how to integrate Sentinel, and where we are, it'll take you to the marketplace listing there as well. And it'll tell you exactly how to get that all set up out of the box. So I know Sentinel can be quite a complex tool, but that should make that integration pretty much one click almost.
Okay, and how long does it take to set up and deploy Jamf Connect with Entra ID?
Oh, good question. Obviously, how long is a piece of string? Every environment's different, and sometimes it will be politics that can delay these things, right? You got to go to your identity and access management team. But if you have all the right people, in the room, I've seen it take less than half an hour to set up and deploy Jamf Connect and integrating it with Entra ID on a Mac. So it's not difficult to set up at all. So on that front, like I say, as long as you've got the right people in the room, it is very quick to set up and deploy.
Amazing, thank you. So I'll just now quickly hand back over to Kenny. I think Kenny's just got one final slide he'd like to share.
Yeah, thanks again, Craig. And Scott, thanks a lot for that. Really good overview there of Jamf Connect and some of the integrations and Jamf Protect. And I think just to finish off, I just want to invite everyone who's attended to come and talk to us about what you've heard about today as part of our wider services portfolio, where we can help with the advice and consultancy, with professional services and with support services as well. So get in touch to have a conversation about what your challenges are just now and what you anticipate they might be in the future. We've got the experience and the expertise, and along with partners like Jamf, we want to help you build the right solutions for you that deliver the outcomes that make you successful. So thanks everyone for attending. Thanks very much, Scott, for your presentation. That was fantastic. And Craig, thanks for organising the event today.
Amazing, thank you. So that's it for today's session. Thank you to everyone who joined, and also a big thank you to our presenters, Kenny and Scott.